to Creators Club. This is Tutu. With me, I have some amazing artists. I have Belchez, B, Kells. These guys are creative, definitely amazing in their lane. On top of that, these guys are great fathers. How y'all feeling today?
Good.
Great.
Fantastic.
You know, the rain, but yeah.
We here.
Yeah, that's
We
it.
definitely here. So how do you guys battle, like being, of course, a father and also being in your lane? How do you battle amongst, fathering your kid and still doing your craft?
It's crazy, man. My son, he kind of understands what it takes to be an entrepreneur, but he's still a child at heart. So I try not to put a lot of my I'm busy onto him, because he didn't ask for me to be busy. He asked me to be a father. The way I balance it, I'm very honest with him. Like, yo, this is what I'm doing today. I can't do this. I try to give him as much independence as possible, because like when he needs groceries or something from Uber Eats, I want him to be able to order himself, because if I got to take time off from my day, that's just one less thing I'm able to do on my business side, because I got to order you groceries. So, I try to just get him to be independent. He's just fairly independent, but he still begs a lot. So I still got to put him in this place like, yo, B, like, I'm busy, man. So, it's hard, but somehow I get it done.
Yeah, I'd agree. It just, it takes a lot of balance, of course. Like he said, because being an entrepreneur, like for me, it's like I do everything on my own, from social media to like designing clothes, and I co-parent.
Okay.
So when I have my children, I have a son and I have a daughter. My daughter is very like vibrant, very outspoken. My son is more like me, very creative. My daughter is too. My son is very creative, very to himself. He can be, he likes to have fun, but in a big crowd, he's not the social butterfly my daughter is.
An introvert.
Yeah. And not that he doesn't want to be friends with anybody, it's just a thing where he's just, you know what I'm saying? He's not that open. So having to balance the two, of course, you have a girl, you have a boy. My daughter is very different from my son. I could tell my son something and he's gonna understand it, he's gonna get it. My daughter has a million questions. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting. Like I work in the house. I don't have a studio or anything. So when they come down and see me working, a lot of times my daughter, she is getting into like drawing and sketching. So like she likes to draw clothes now. For Christmas, she usually asks for toys. This Christmas, she asks for clothes. My daughter's 7 years old. Spooky. Very scary. My son is still into games and toys. Games more so. But it's an interesting balance to have. You know what I'm saying? So.
I think I have the fortunate ability for my son. My son grew up with Belchez, so he's been wearing the brand ever since he was, maybe like 4. He's now about to be 23. So he's somewhat like my partner now. Okay. So he's in the streets a lot more than I am. So I'll give him the shorts 2 weeks before they drop. I'll give him like the sweatsuit he'll have before it drops, and he'll get the hype up. And by the time I have my pop-up, it's already buzzing. So I've had the fortunate ability to watch my son grow with me, and very much like the two gentlemen, watch the whole process. Now he wants to be a part of the process, finishing school and after football, he played football at the University of Massachusetts on a full scholarship. That's very proud of him.
That's right.
After that, just kind of being lost in the sauce and realizing, the world isn't what they tell you it is. And just being able for me to be in place where he can kind of pick up. Okay. All right, Dad, what we got going on with Belchez? I need 5 vests. I need this, that, and the third. I can't remember. It was a little scary at first because he was like, he's shooting these text messages, and he went to the storage, he grabbed a bunch of shorts, and he was like, yo, don't worry, I'm gonna bring the money back. I was very worried he wasn't gonna bring the money back, but he wound up bringing back $1,600. That was my cut.
Dope.
That was my cut, and I was very proud of him. So I was able to kind of, not even balance, I just merged that relationship and watch it foster to where it is right now. So I'm excited about that.
Got it. So do you guys feel like it's safe to say that you guys' children is like a heavy influence on yourself and your brand?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, what's crazy is a lot of the things that I think that we create as creators are for our children. It's to make our lives easier, but in essence, it's to make our children's life easier. And again, my son, he just still doesn't understand that. Like, I gotta work hard so you can get everything that I didn't have. What I gotta constantly remind myself is, I think it's very like kind of dangerous to tell our kids that you don't know how good you got it, because they don't. Because we, you know, we work hard, so they don't know what I went through, what we went through. Like, my son go to the projects, it's like he's like a fish out of water. Like, he cannot believe people are pissing in the elevators. Like, that's what I wanted. I didn't want him to have to know what those things are. So, you know, you got some parents who want their kids to understand the struggle. I don't want my son to understand the struggle. You know what I'm saying? I think that we are the first generation of our culture who are raising our kids in love and not struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like, my son knows he's loved. I tell him I love him, I kiss him, and I'm gonna kiss him forever. You know what I'm saying? That's just a thing that he knows, because I didn't grow up with physical touch and love and affection. You know what I'm saying? So I've just pour that into my son. But yeah, everything that we do, I believe, as parents, is to make our kids' life a little bit easier.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that because, again, I'm from the same household. My mom raised 5 kids by herself. Her and my dad split very, very early. So it was, at the time, it was me, my sister, and my older 2 siblings, and then my little brother came later on. But for my son, I always said, like, when I have kids, you know, granted, you know, I mean, me and their mom didn't work out, but at the same time, I'm like, that's not gonna stop me from being in my kid's life. Same thing happened with my family, like with my mom and my dad, but the difference is I didn't grow up with my father. Like, my dad went to the military, sent me and my sister down south, and we stayed down there for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And it was, years went by, I didn't speak to my mom, I didn't speak to my dad. I saw him randomly, but I stayed with my grandmother. So for me, I was like, yo, when I grow up, my kids are never gonna go through that. Never gonna go through that. I don't care if me and their mom doesn't work out, nothing like they're never gonna experience what it's like not to have me around.
Right.
Or not to have their mother around, you know what I'm saying? So, like he said, I kissed my son in front of his classmates. You know what I'm saying? I kissed my daughter, and just to let him know, like, I'm gonna be here regardless. I don't care what your friends think. I don't care nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has school trips. The only threshold I don't cross is, like, he doesn't want me going on the school trips with him. He tells me, my daughter is all for it. Daddy, come on, let's go. But my son is like, all right, let's draw the line here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like he said, man, it's like you just want better for your kids. And I stand with you on this too. I'm not a firm believer in making your kids feel like they have to know what the struggle is like. Because you have other cultures that don't believe in that. They're born into wealth, and that's what they experience. That's their experience. This is what it is. Though there's always the bad side of life, right? There's always the dark side. But I don't feel our kids have to be exposed to that.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Because it makes them grow up thinking like, all right, so when I have kids, I gotta expose them to the same thing too. No, we gotta start, you know what I'm saying? We have to do something different. So,
I agree. I mean, I'm not a parent, but just based off of, growing up with my mom, my dad wasn't around. My mom and my uncles, my grandmother and stuff like that raised me. But I could tell, like, I was so in tune with my mom that even as a young kid, I would see when she was struggling, you get what I'm saying? She would try to hide it though. She didn't want me to see that, She'll make sure if she have to spend her last because I said I want something and I deserve this, she's gonna make sure I have it. You get what I'm saying? So the things that I would see, it's because I paid attention to her, So I'll see little things and I'll be like, Ma, you all right? She'll be like, yeah, I'm all right. But she really didn't want me to see that. She'll cry before, like, you get what I'm saying? I see certain things, but I appreciated seeing that though. Because her dedication was just like, it was very consistent. She didn't stop. She kept going. And that's what helped me be the person that I am today. You get what I'm saying? So just growing up with my mom, that definitely helped me. Her dedication and her drive was phenomenal. She didn't stop even if she had to. I remember, she always bring this up. She'll be like, yo, I remember when I didn't have a job. And you was like, all right, Mom, you gonna get a job now? And I was young, and
Yeah.
she said, sure enough, I took my ass and I got a job. And
Yeah.
she always had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
She bust her ass, you know what I mean?
You know,
So, like, just seeing that.
The crazy thing about growing up, just like thinking about what you said, I didn't realize that I was poor growing up until I became an adult. My mother, my father went to jail when I was really young, and we was forced into a situation where we had to fend for ourselves. My mother did the best that she could with the help of my sister, but I never knew that we were without until I got older. You know, I was just so well protected and well guarded, and I never wanted for anything.
Right.
So that's why it's funny, like you see the memes where it's like I wish my child would grow up and say I got it out the mud. Like I never really got it out the mud because I
Right.
was protected from getting out the mud. Even though we was messed up, we didn't have money, I couldn't do what I didn't want to, what I really wanted to do. But I never felt that.
Yeah.
I just always felt I just
Yeah.
not able to do that. I never felt like I was without. You know what I'm saying? Even though I was without. That's because, you know, I was just protected by love. So that's just one of the things that is one of the things that I'm appreciative of, and I try to give that to my son. I don't want my son to feel what's going on in the real world. You know what I'm saying? Like I teach him real world things, but I try to protect him as much as possible. Because when he get older, he's gonna be able to adjust to those things and understand it. So, you know, just basically what you said, I really appreciate my mom for that, just protecting me and not making me realize that we were without. I never felt like we was down bad.
How you feel, Bob?
Repeat the question because I was just
Damn,
listening.
what was
and
the
I got-
question? I got so deep in it, I
No,
forgot.
do you feel like you said? Do you feel like your kids?
Is influence on
right.
you? Yeah, it's influence on you. You answered it first, as a matter of fact, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I definitely think you
Yeah,
answered
yeah.
it
I mean, I
first.
just kind of piggyback. I mean, it was just like, you know, and I agree with the two gentlemen are saying. And at some point, our kids are gonna see the struggle for themselves.
Yeah.
Because we all have black kids, and America isn't really cut out or prepared to help raise our kids. So as much protection as we continue to do and show them love, at some point, and my son, and I'm seeing it now, and my son is 20, well, he's about to be 23, and he's realizing like, oh snap, like the life that my mom, my dad gave me is completely different from how the world perceives me. You know, because he sees himself on the news and the movies, in videos, and that we are portrayed as one particular character. And you know, I'm watching him kind of fight against, you know, his upbringing versus where he currently is and how the world currently sees him. So, but the good news is he does have that foundation of, you know, love and support. And I'm glad that we're all in line as parents with that, because that's important. As black men to continue to love our
Definitely,
kids. Yeah.
definitely.
Because it's I'm sorry. I ain't-
No,
So like not growing up with my dad made me just grow up way different. Like I mean, I would ask my mom, you know, certain questions, but at that I didn't understand what divorce was. I understand that my dad wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? They never argued in front of me. My mother and my father never fought in front of me. Nothing like that. My father never put his hands on my mom. Never. It was never a thing like that. I just know that, you know, my mom worked 2 jobs and she went to school and graduated from college.
That's
And
dope.
she did it, you know what I'm saying? And then raised 5 of us on her own.
That's dope.
You know what I'm saying? And like, so for me to see that, it was just like growing up, I'm like, man, you know, and also how you want to treat who you're with, like your mate. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dang, man, my mother went through all this. No way I could get with somebody and not try to give them what my mom didn't get.
Right,
You understand what I'm saying?
right.
And also show my kids that, like, your kids have to see the best part of you. I mean, of course, they're going to see some bad parts, but you know, our goal is for them to see the best part of us and give us the best, or give them the best part of us. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's why I think, like, I work so hard, and because I just want them to have better. I just want them to have everything I did not have. You know what I'm saying? My kids growing up now, they ask for things. I get it. I make sure. I try to, try my best. When I was growing up, I asked my mother for things. She couldn't get it all the time. You know what I'm saying? And then it'll boil down to, you know, I mean, me growing up in school, it was my sister who was like, I want to go in school. I'm the type, I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
I just want to get out. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, it boiled down to, well, if you get a grade in this, a certain grade in this, I'll get you this. And I'm just like, yeah, well, I'm not getting that. Yeah, I won't be getting it.
I'm not getting
So yeah, man. I just think us as men, like black men, in this world, the world is so crazy right now, and I feel like there's so many different parts that could influence our children. So we just have to have that real, like, grounding at home. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so I want to tap into where you guys are from and how do it play a role in your art?
Well, I was born in Guyana, and I was raised in Harlem. So for me, Harlem is full of history. When you talk about Harlem, you think about like brownstones and the whole Renaissance period. So, I grew up in the projects. I grew up in Foster, King, Bang Bang, whatever you want to call it right now. But so those experiences, having the Caribbean background, growing up in Harlem and having the history, it's just like a real interesting mosh podge of who I was, who I am, and who I want to become. Hence, which is why when you always see my artwork, there's a lot of colors, a lot of bright, vivid colors. That's just reminiscent of, the Caribbean households. If you go down to like Jamaica, Guyana, Puerto Rico, any place in the Caribbean, the houses are really, really bright. So that's where I kind of draw my color palette from and consistently kind of pull from that. And then just Harlem, just holding Harlem down and just wanting to be part of that conversation of great creatives and making sure I constantly build up my community.
You go, bro. Get back. So for me, so I was born in New York, Lenox Hill Hospital. We stayed in the Bronx for a little bit when I was first born. Then my dad saw fit for me and my little sister to go down south to South Carolina because at the time he didn't feel that New York City was a good place to raise children. So he sent us down south with my grandmother. Stayed down there until I was in the 4th grade, so I was about 9. I went down there at 5. I stayed down there till I was 9, and then when we moved back to New York, I moved to Queens. So Queens, for me, at the time, growing up, it was Tommy Hilfiger, Polo, Carhartt, and Tins. That's another thing. So for me, I was just like, okay, so this is what it is. I thought it was fly. I thought it was cool. And then I started looking at what everybody else was wearing, and as I started to get older, I went to Andrew Jackson High School, and when I got there, still my fashion. I knew what I liked fashion-wise, but again, my mom didn't have the funds to do that. I didn't have a job at the time, so what I was seeing, I see kids come to school in polo sweaters. I'm talking $600 sweaters. I'm like, where they getting these sweaters from? Polo, the knit sweaters, cashmere's. I'm like, he's bugging out. The Timbs, all color. And this is when they had the different color Timbs. I mean, the dark green, the blue, and navy. And I'm just like, wow, this is a whole different world. But I'm seeing how they're putting it together. And for me, it's just like, it's fly. But sometimes, you look at certain things and say that it's fly because that's what you see. That's all you see, right? But I was really married to this whole way they were putting things together. I'm like streetwear and workwear at the same time. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was cool. And then as I got older, my mom put me on the train one day. I was 16 years old by myself. She let me go to the city by myself. I went to Soho, and when I got to Soho, it was over.
Got turned out right there. That shit was it.
I was playing ball in my neighborhood and all that. After that, they never saw me on another Saturday, Friday. I was in the city. And then we went to church in Harlem. Once that happened, that opened my eyes. When I started seeing like kids walk around with basketball sneakers, with jeans, like putting it together, I'm like, oh my God, I was getting turned, like everything. So it was like a whole like gumbo of things. And I'm like, okay, so do I want to be a designer, right? Because I love clothes so much. Or do I just want to be somebody that just likes to buy clothes all day, right? So when you don't have the funds to afford those things, you start making those things.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was for me in the house. Like I'll go in the house and I just started trying my best to emulate that look all into one thing. So that's how it started for me. But I just think New York as a whole, for sure, Harlem, for me, Harlem really, aside from Soho, but Harlem was just more, because you know, Soho is like just open. It's not a community. It's just you in a place where everybody's just fashionably correct, right? Or trying to be. You go to Harlem, that's a community. You know what I'm saying? You in a neighborhood. These people, like, this is what they do. On a Friday, no, we're not going to Harlem. I mean, like, we're not going to Soho. It's a block party here, a block party there. Everybody's outside. Even if it's not a party, everybody's just outside. You know what I'm saying? And they wearing these clothes just to step outside. It's not even they going to a party or nothing. They stepping outside like this.
Nowhere.
So with that, right. So with that helped me with, as far as like getting up every day and just making sure I'm correct, making sure I look nice. Because that for me, that's what I got from it. It's like they just want to look nice. It's like, nah, I'm not going to a party. This is why I like to look like this every day. You know what I mean? So I got that from Harlem, and then as far as Soho is just a place where you just throw your clothes on. It's not about if it looks right to some people. You just gotta make it work. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I got that from. And Queens just raised me to be like, just be who I am. You know what I'm saying? Who would have thought that workwear would have been fashionable?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and they made that a thing. So
Right.
for me, it was the gumbo of things. Yeah.
So I am born, raised, influenced Harlem. Everything about Harlem to me growing up, it's always funny, like, we say we love things just because we're a part of it, but I truly believe if I was born anywhere in the world, I would still admire Harlem for what Harlem is. It's like being in a music video that just does not stop. It's nonstop. Everybody is fly, everybody is on the corner chilling, and it's crazy. I remember like my out-of-town cousins would come, or somebody from New Jersey would come to the city, like, what's going on? Like, it'd just be 400 people on the corner. Everybody is fly for no reason. We got nowhere to go. We have no idea what we're about to do. Nobody has a plan. Nobody has nothing. It was just people fly. So I think just being from Harlem, naturally I was into fashion. And just like you, I never really knew what I wanted to do with fashion. Like just being a designer I was like kind of forced into it because of my family business and just being into fashion and just being around fly people. And what's really crazy, so when I went to school, I got my master's degree in business. Still, I had no idea what I was gonna do. I come out of school, I apply for 400 jobs. Nobody will hire me. I'm like, fuck it, let me just try fashion out. And that's literally how I ended up in fashion, because I was already in it. I did not go to school to learn. Everybody knows this story. I tell it all the time. I went to school so people could see my outfit. I did not go to school for grades. I had perfect attendance and I failed everything. I don't even know how that was possible. But I went for people to see my outfits, because where else you gonna go? Everybody in school. So I'm like, I might as well go too. So, just being in the fashion more and more, I was more impressed with people admiring how I dressed than somebody admiring my grades. You know what I'm saying? I'm still like that. Like, I don't really like school, but I like learning. So yeah, just Harlem, man. I just love everything about Harlem, and I do believe that it has played a major part in the way I create, in the way I think, the way I just view the world. And aside from Harlem, what really opened my eyes to the world was music. Music and movies. I remember being young and black and being in the comic books, and I thought I was alone. It was like, it's crazy that comic books is cool now, but back then, nobody was talking about it. It was like secretive, like it was something you did secretly in your house. Until Wu-Tang came out with Into the 36 Chambers, and it was all kind of comic book references on there. I'm like, I had no idea that street dudes read comics. Like, I'm like, wow, they talking about Neighborhood Spider-Man and Ghostface was Tony Stark. I'm like, this is crazy. I had no idea. So, I really want to thank Wu-Tang for opening my eyes to the world and making me feel more comfortable as a black boy into comics.
Would you guys consider yourselves a designer or an artist?
What's crazy? I think it's interchangeable. I think fashion is art, and it's always weird to me when people like fashion's not a big deal, but even something that's not a big deal to you is a big deal. Like we all got to get dressed. Like,
Right.
so your choice of how you dress is your artistic expression of yourself, even if you have on pajamas outside. So I do think that designers can be considered artists, but I never really quite got the full definition of what a designer is, because like the title changes so much. One day I'm a designer, I'm a stylist. You gotta dress people. You gotta tell them how to do this, tell them how to walk, tell them how to pose in pictures. Like you're a photographer, you're a creative director. Like,
Right.
so I do consider myself an artist, but I would consider myself more of a designer than an artist.
Okay.
I think I'm a historian. When you think about, and we had the conversation about like trends, you know, what we're wearing now is history. So when I create, whether or not it's on a canvas, whether or not it's on a piece of garment, I'm telling you where I am right now in history. At this particular moment, at this particular time, Tim's with the red bottoms is in, Jordan's is in, you know what I mean? New Balance is in. So at this particular time, everything we're wearing is telling us, is stamping us as a particular time in history. So when I look at art that I create, whether or not, again, it's on garments or whether or not it's on a canvas, whether or not it's an exhibition I do, I'm telling a story. I'm telling the history of who I am, where I am, and what we are doing as people. And so when I approach things like that, you know, I get better results, you know, because I've been a designer before. I've been a stylist, you know. I've been all these other things. I've done all these things, but I'm realizing all these things are just because now when I look back on things, I'm like, oh, I remember when we used to wear those sneakers, and I remember the time that this happened. I remember the time that happened, or I remember the time when I first bought the Aqua 8s, and I remember when Jordan did that. So everything that we're doing right now is just like history. So I'm just time stamping moments in my life that I can kind of like coordinate back. Because even when you look at like the 80s, and when you look at what they wore, that was history, you know? So I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I really feel like I'm a historian outside of just being an artist and then maybe a designer.
I think for me, I would say I'm more of an artist, and just everything is a canvas for me. Because I just, when people mention like designer to me, I just feel like sometimes it's just like, when they ask me, I'm just like, it's very, like that's a very intense thing. I went to Catherine Gibbs for fashion and design, and when I was there, it was like they were telling you how to draw. You should draw like this. I remember being in sketch class, and the teacher used to tell me, he used to tell me how to draw, pretty much like how to hold a pencil. And I'm just like, this is too much. You know what I'm saying? I just need to be able to, and I think as an artist, I'm more free to do whatever it is I want to do. And fashion is like do's, don'ts, and all these other things. Well, I'm an artist, and I'm going to do everything you tell me not to do.
Right.
Because I think what you're telling me not to do is actually cool to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and plus it takes all the don'ts out of the equation for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Again, like when I started designing clothes, I had a few people tell me I had too much time on my hands. Nobody paid me no real attention like that. You know, I knew how to dress, but when I started making my own clothes, it's just a little different. You know what I'm saying? Going into a store and buying something, you know the look that you want to go for. So when you buy it and you put it on, you know exactly how it's going to look. When you're designing your own clothes, you have this thing where, okay, I know how I want it to look. So when I design it, but it's not a guarantee when you put it on, it's going to come out the way.
Right.
You understand? So for me, I feel like I'm just more of an artist, just more free will to do whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a designer is more specific. You know what I'm saying? When you pick a designer, it's like, okay, this is what you do, you design. But when you say that you're an artist, it's so many things under the sun that you could do. You know what I'm saying? I feel like once I got into grad school is when I really noticed, like, this shit is really an art. You cannot tell, it's really an aesthetic choice, really. You know what I'm saying? I went to school for film, so You may not like my film. I like it. You know what I'm saying? There's no wrong. You get what I'm saying? The only thing is make sure my audio is right, my lighting is right, and even down to lighting sometimes. I may like it a certain way how it look, and you may think it's too dark. I like that.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's really an aesthetic choice, and I think it just lets you just be creative and just let you flow. And also with that being said, like just being creative, I feel like you guys have like very creative names. Cause when you hear your name, you think that's your name. You know what I'm saying? Belchez. Let's talk about that. How did that start, and how did you come up with that name?
So Belchez started when I was in college. So my homegirl and she was super fly, and I remember I used to just paint and draw on tees and sell tees and like embellish sneakers in college. I would do whatever. She was like, "Yo, why don't we just do a clothing line together?" So her last name, she was Haitian, so her last name was Belches. So we was working together because originally it was going to be called Cortez, and I was like, I'm not fucking Mayan. I'm definitely can't run around with a brand called Cortez. So she's like, well, why don't we just call it? Because her name is Belchez. I forgot how she pronounced it, but we knocked the S off and we changed it to a Z. So we was rocking. I remember I was selling Belchez Couture T-shirts in college, and we sold a bunch of those just on the strength that she was fly and I was cool. I played football. Everybody fucked with us. But then when she just kind of left the brand alone, I liked the name, so I was like, damn, I need to figure out how to continue with this name and continue to brand it. So when you look at the word Belchez and you break it down, B-E-L-L-E. Is Bella, so it means beautiful.
Okay.
And when you look at C-H-E-Z, it means the house of or possession.
Okay.
So once I got into the actual linguistics breakdown of the name, I realized the word meant beautiful possession.
Fire.
So I was like, damn, this is good. You know what I mean? I got damn, I did this by myself. I was like, damn, this is good. And then I was like, this is perfect because everything I create for someone becomes their beautiful possession. So I just started running with that, you know what I'm saying? And now everybody calls me Belchez or Bell, unless you like Ferg or Jay West, who calls me Belch. I don't know why you call me that, Bell or Belchez, but it stemmed from that, and and it has such power in the name, and I actually never told that story, which is really good because I need to tell that story because people really think my name is fucking Belchez.
Yeah, I thought your name was Belchez.
Yo, Belchez. I'm like, yo, what's good? So yeah. Definitely interesting.
What's crazy is Kells is actually an acronym. It stands for Keeping Everyone Largely Lucrative and Successful.
Okay.
It was given to me by some older guys on my block because I always had like a hustle or trying to outthink myself and think further into the world. And then it just stuck with me. Some people spell it with a Z, it's with an S. For anybody that doesn't know, it's K-E-L-S. Yeah, but it's an acronym. But what's crazy is I hate acronyms. So it's funny that my name is an acronym, and I hate acronyms. My government name is my father's name, and about when I was 12, 13, I just decided I didn't want to have his name for a lot of different reasons. So I've been Kells since I was like 12 years old. There's some people who don't even know my real name, and it's so crazy now. If you call me by my real name, I won't answer you. I only answer the Kells.
Wow.
So for me, all right, so my name is Brian Lamont Kit. So that's where Lamont comes from, but Remington is a good friend of mine. His name is Alex Remington Hill, and we used to work at Kith together. And he's from Florida, so when I came to Kith, we met each other, and it was just like we just clicked. You know what I'm saying? And this day and age, like with guys, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of hard to like really like build a relationship amongst men. Because this world is guys are so like into different things, and a lot of times when you come up in a household where you have like, you grow up a certain way, you know what I'm saying, like you're really a man about certain things. And it's like when a guy comes in and it doesn't equal to that level, it's just like, yeah, we cool or whatever. You might talk to him, but it's no relationship, right? So I thought it was a special thing that we actually clicked, and again, because I'm an introvert. You know what I'm saying? I don't really open up a lot. But we clicked, and I remember I wore a pair of pants to work one day, and he was just like, yo, you got something? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. I just kept on doing because nobody was buying it. You know what I'm saying? I just did it and nobody, you know, like nobody really looked at it. He's like, I'm telling you, you got something. So one thing led to another, and he's just like, yo, man. I told him, I said, yo, man, like, what do you think about starting a clothing line? Like, I think I should start a clothing line. He said, yeah, you should. You know what I'm saying? He had his own situation going on. He was working, I forgot where he was working before Kith, but he had contacts and all these other things in order already. And I told him, I said, yo, man, I think I should really start a clothing line. I said, but I don't have a name. Like, I'm really bad with names. And he told me, he said, yo, what if you named it Remington Lamont? And I was like, Remington Lamont. I was like, that's crazy. I was like, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, I'm with it. So I did my first, well, I didn't do my first pant, but I kept on doing it, and I started just spreading the name. And then when people would ask me what kind of pants I got on, I'm like, these are called Remington Lamonts. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, Remington Lamont, that's a fire name, bro.
Yeah,
so with that, you know, went to Instagram, and that's how that happened.
That's fire.
Yeah.
So what's the creative process behind your brand and everybody brand? But what's the creative process? Because I know for me, when I first came across your page, and you know I love Carhartt. So just seeing that, and you threw like your own shit, your own twist to it, was fire to me. Cause it, you know, it'd be some Carhartt vests that be like washed. It look like vintage. I like that. And when I was seeing your pants, you have like rips and stuff. I'm like, nah, this shit is fire. So what's the process behind that? What made you pick the Carhartt pants to do that on?
So a little bit about my history. Fun fact: I used to work at Atrium.
Fire. I remember Atrium.
Yeah.
I remember Atrium.
I worked there.
Nah, Atrium was a
I
time.
used to work there. Yeah.
First
big
of all,
time.
before you get into that, right?
Yeah.
My first pair of expensive jeans came from Atrium.
Mine
I
too.
cracked my mother for those. I said, Mom, I want these
Yeah.
antiques. We went to Atrium. Them shits was $350. She was like, $350?
I think I got some paper
Damn.
denims from.
Oh man.
Paper
yeah,
denim, too
fact.
Paper
fire.
denims was fire.
Fire.
What happened to paper denims?
Yeah.
Yo,
Antiques. I
antiques?
forgot.
Yes.
Come on now.
So I what happened? Okay, so I was going to Captain Gibbs at the time, and I think I was 19, and Captain Gibbs is on 42nd. Well, it was. It's not a school anymore. It was on 42nd. So when I would leave there, I have class like 8 in the morning. I get out about 12. I'm not lying to y'all. I would leave class. I would go to Soho, and I'll be in Soho from about 12:30 to like 5 o'clock. No money in my pocket. I probably had $5 to get a slice of pizza and a soda. But I was walking in and out of stores every day, just peeping the culture. I sit in the park and just look around. Dang, this is really like a circus for me. Like this is like a place, like a fun place. You know what I'm saying? So I remember walking down Broadway, and I walked past this store. It's, you know, Atrium is like catty corner. It's on the corner, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? I look in the store, and I'm like, yo, what? Everybody's in there. Like, I'm seeing different cars pull up, and I'm like, wow. I want to start working. Like, I think I want to get into clothes. I walked in there, and I remember walking in there, and I'm like, I'm looking for a job. I want to know if you guys have any positions open. So the guy at the time, I think his name was, shout out to Daniel Winchester. I don't know if y'all know Atrium back in the day. He was a dark-skinned guy, had wild hair, like hair was everywhere, like dreadlocks. But shout out to him, he was my mentor, one of them. And I went there, and he was like, yeah, man, just bring your resume. I didn't have much of a resume. I think I worked at Burger King was my first job. And my mom's took me there. Word. So I went in there, and I took my resume. He never got back to me. So I waited a couple weeks. This time I went and dressed up. This time, like my mother's like, go dressed up next time. My mother was always that type, like, yo, keep trying, like, don't keep going. So I went. This time I dressed up, and I'll never forget. I had got what's the check you get like when you go to college and it's like money left over?
Oh, like
from
the financial aid?
reimbursement, right?
Yeah.
So I had money left over for my semester. So I was downtown shopping, spending it, running it up. So I'm downtown shopping. I got a phone call, and I pick up the phone. He was like, "Hi, is this Brian?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Well, this is so-and-so, I can't remember the lady's name, from Atrium. He's like, we want you to come in for an interview. I walked into the interview. I think it was like on a Saturday. I walked in, 8 in the morning. I'm sitting there. As soon as I walk in, I got discouraged because it was a group interview.
Yeah.
So as soon as I see group interview, I'm like,
It's over.
I'm here. I'm not gonna get chosen though. We sitting there, and the lady goes, she going to ask everybody whatever, and then she says to me, she says, okay, I want you and like 5 other people. So I want y'all to dress a mannequin for the MTV Awards. I was like, I'm not getting this job. I'm not getting it. Dress a mannequin? Nah, I'm just barely learning how to dress myself. Like, so I did the best I could do, and we sitting down, and she's like, okay, when I call your name, sit over to the side, and whoever don't, whatever. She called my name, and there's like 2 other people, and when she called my name, she's like, all right, congratulations, you got the job. I'm not gonna lie to y'all.
What you put on the mannequin?
I put, at this time, they had, okay, when I went for my interview.
You can't leave that out. Like,
Nah, I can't leave it out. They had this brand called Philippa K. It's like this European brand. I think I put a jacket, it was like this high collared jacket. This is back when like, just high fashion was like real high fashion, like these sleek silhouettes and like, you know what I'm saying? So I put that on, I put a pair of 7 jeans on him. Cause I'm like, all right, 7 is a thing. So I'm like, let's do that. And then the shirt, I think at the time they was carrying this brand called J. Lindenberg.
I remember that.
Okay,
remember
so I put that on him, and then
the JL.
Yeah,
I thought it was Jennifer Lopez line the whole time. Like, this bitch is killing. She's killing.
And they did a collab with Converse, so I put those are the shoes I put on the mannequin, and the lady was just looking like, okay.
It was a black girl.
This lady was white.
Oh, okay.
She's a white lady. I forget her name. Her name is Janet. That's her name.
Janet.
I can't remember her last name. Short, and she's not white. She's a short Asian woman. Very cool. Ever since then, like she just taught me so much. So I did that, and I got the job. So at 19, when you're working at Atrium, you weren't allowed to be a sales associate. You had to be a sales assistant. So when I got there, I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm helping, but I'm noticing like they're making so much. They're making so much money on this sales floor. It's just like how. But you see people just buying stuff, buying. I'm like, wow, I really want to be a sales associate. I want to make the money that they're making. So, as a sales assistant, I did the best I could to assist everybody. I served. I'm not even gonna lie. I did what I had to do. You want me to go get you something? I'm going to get it. If I had to run downstairs to the back of the stock room, I was doing that. You know what I'm saying? And within a year, I wasn't even supposed to be a sales associate yet. In like a year's time, I was a sales associate. Put me on the floor. It's like, look, his name is Evo. That was the guy, like one of the managers there at the
Diesel
time.
dude.
No, this guy, he's white,
Oh.
kind of, he's European, kind of tall, and talking a high-pitched voice. Voice is mad funny, but he was cool. He just loved me. And he's like, I'm gonna give you a shot on the sales floor. Got on the sales floor, and I just went crazy. I remember Saturday morning, we opened at like 9:30. First people to walk in, the lady bought oh my gosh, Andy Warhol jacket. He had a collab with somebody. She bought an Andy Warhol jacket for me. The jacket was like $1,600. I was on cloud 9. I'm like, yeah, it's up now. I'm going crazy now. But what made me get into my pants, it was like I was so into denim. Paper denim was huge for me. I remember one time I was styling, and I was assisting, but she sent me to Paper Denim's showroom. I went upstairs to pick up a bag, and I just fell in love with denim. After Paper Denim, it was Antique, and then PRPS came.
PRPS was
And when PRPS came,
changed the game.
it changed the whole game. I wanted to, I got a chance to meet Don Juan Harrell, and then his brother spun off and did Striver's Row. And I got the chance to meet them both. A good thing with Atrium that it taught me, they did a lot of seminars. So when they would do seminars, they're usually on a Thursday morning. We would go to the showroom and have it in the showroom. They would show us things like what selvage was, all these cool things about denim, how you could distress it and all those things. So that's what I fell in love with that. And after that, I just started just experimenting with pants. And the reason why I chose Carhartt was because that's what my roots were.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It was big and baggy. Back then it was cool, but then I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I could slim it down.
Right.
And I knew if I took it to the tailor, they're gonna charge me up the ass
For sure.
for just the tail of my pants. I'm like, what's another way I could do that? So I just started. It wasn't like the thread wasn't this thick. It was just like something I was just trying, and I did it with it on my body.
That's
You know what I'm saying? It was a pair of Levi's at first, and then I was like, let me choose Carhartt.
That's so funny because I remember my first Carhartt jacket. I still have it now. I order a lot of men's wear. I don't really wear female clothes. And the jacket, it was a small jacket, but the shoulders was like mad broad.
Yeah.
So I took it to the cleaners and made them take it in.
Yeah.
That shit cost more than what the jacket cost.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
Costs more than what the jacket costs. And I always go to the cleaners. I'm big on tailoring
Yeah.
and things like that. I'm like, yo, my shoulder just look like it's not made for me. You know what I'm saying? It's too big. They took it in. Shit was way more than what the jacket cost.
That's heavy.
So what's your creative process, bro?
That was a great story. I don't even. I forgot I was part of the show. That was fantastic. That was so comfortable.
Once you mention Atrium, that shit bring memories, yo.
Oh man, my creative process changes all the time, just depending on the medium that I do. My creative process is built in with a little bit of procrastination. Like for me, I need to feel under the wire. I need to feel like, oh man, I got 48 hours to do this, and I think that's where most of my my best work comes in, because that's when I'm able just to focus, turn the noise off, and kind of just like hone in. But a huge part of my creativity comes from the library. So there is the New York City Picture Library. They try to close it like 3 times. So it's just a phenomenal library. It is in the big library where the 2 lions are. So it's like a room probably like 4 times the size of this space. And it's just literally Google before Google. But it's images that you will never, ever see on Google. So you would go in there, I would go in there, and let's say, I'm working on, in the last project I did, a huge project. There was a project with Adidas when I painted the 2 basketball courts for my community. So I wanted to find some images, and I wanted to find some images I wouldn't be able to find, or people were able to duplicate or type in and find on the internet. So I went in there, I was just looking, and I was searching, and then you go to lady, and you tell a category, and it would be like basketball courts. So she would give you a paper, and of all the things you want to see. And I'd go there, and it'd be folders and folders and folders. And I would spend hours there just kind of siphoning through photos and looking at photos and just like building inspiration upon inspiration. And then that'll lead me to a book, and that'll lead me to another artist, and I'd have exactly what I need to do the project. So that library has been like the mainstay for my creativity for a very long time. Even during COVID, I had such a great relationship. The dude, I'm not gonna say his name, I'd call him like, yo, B, I need such and such. I felt like he was giving me a brick of coke. I'd meet him in the back of the library, white dude, old white dude, definitely by the books. He never did anything illegal in his life because he was always super sketchy. He'd be like, all right, Belle, I'm gonna leave the folder of photos inside of a box by the dumpster. And in my mind, I'm like, yo, B, it's just a folder of pictures, you know what I'm saying? He was like, take it when you're done, give me a call back, I'll meet you on 3rd Avenue. Yo, B, chill out. But I'd always kind of go through that process, but I kind of like that. But, for me, research in the library was where everything starts and begins, because like I said, I need to be authentic in my approach. I need to be able to say, all right, well, this came from this came from that, and this is who I am. Because in this tells a true story, a true history of everything I create. Everything we create as creatives, that's our resume. So if you able to look at my resume and you see like, oh, nigga, that's that picture you pulled from Google. You're not really doing nothing, my man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want you to not be able to find that. I want you to be able to learn from it. Like, oh, damn, where'd you get this lock from, Belchez? Well, actually, that's a lock that came from a 1920s slave gate, which is why I took it, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Nice. So for me, research in the library is where I start and I kind of finish.
Copy.
My process it has to be chaotic. I have to be doing multiple things at once. I believe I'm a good multitasker. I love the idea of doing a lot of things at once, even if they have no connection to each other at all. One of my greatest influences of getting creative is people watching. It was funny. I've always known that I liked to people watch. It wasn't until I read Steve Stout's book, Tanning of America, that I realized that it was a marketing thing. There are a lot of people in marketing that go to malls, that go to like highly popularized places and just watch people. Yeah. I think one of the greatest things to learn about the culture and what's moving and what's going on is to literally people watch. When it comes to like design, I try to like, I remember like when I first really got into fashion, I was trying to do all the fatty things and fad colors and big graphic designs. And then I realized that that stuff wasn't timeless. So now I try to design stuff that's timeless. Like yesterday I wore a coat that I designed 25 years ago. These pants I probably designed 15 years ago. And I remember like when I started doing sweatpants, I didn't like the way, like when we were growing up, sweatpants was baggy all the way down. It's just now that it's starting to get slim, but I always thought that was dope. I love like that tight, like soccer pant look of sweatpants. So I always just tried to design sweatpants like that because I didn't like the way sweatpants look. So a lot of the things that I try to design is because I don't like how something else looks. I don't like how something else feels. When you talk about tailored, what's funny for me, and it's dope that everybody's getting into it, every single thing I buy from the store, I get tailored. T-shirts, everything. I can't think of anything I just buy from the store just straight wear. Because of my broad shoulders and just the way I want my clothes to fit, I have to get it tailored. So in essence, a lot of times, I think a lot of designers or people who make clothes, like you said, are forced into it because we can't find what we want. So a lot of my designs are literally because I can't find it or I know it doesn't exist. And it's crazy. I love when I'm dealing with clients and people who want stuff made and they don't know how to explain it, but they don't realize that I'm chaotic. So anything you explain to me, even if it's patchy, I could figure it out. They're like, I want it to look like this. And you show them two pictures, they're like, yeah, that together. Like, I know what you're saying. I speak chaos, so I understand a lot of chaotic things.
So how do you guys feel about team building? You know, a lot, and you said it too, you don't have a team, it's just you. So how do y'all feel about, you know, like having a team opposed to doing this by yourself?
I mean, the team is essential. You can't look at any successful brand, person, athlete, and not attribute their success to a full-on team. You know, outside of Belchez, I own a creative company called Ice Water.
Okay.
And Ice Water consists of Stephen Othello, Kwasi Cassie, and a legendary young Ramsha. So collectively, when it's like Kwasi's a phenomenal stylist, a great friend of mine. He runs for Adidas, and he has his own brand, Africonic. Stephen is like one of the greatest creatives that I personally know. He has been behind the scenes in plenty of music creativity. He owns his own brand, Objects. Ramsha, who is also an amazing photographer and a former student of mine. You know, when we come together, when it's my turn, you know, to put together a pop-up, we all come together to help push me. When it's Kwasi's turn for his pop-up, we come together to push him. Vice versa, Steve, Ramsha, and that's essential because, you know, being a creative person, you know, we get pulled in so many directions because we can do it. Doesn't necessarily mean we should do it, you know, and that's what I learned early on. Yeah, I can negotiate my budget. Yeah, I can shoot the video. Yeah, I can edit. Yeah, I can make the logo. Yeah, I can design the t-shirts, but I shouldn't be doing all of that because I wind up stressing myself entirely too thin and then watering down the actual product. So I'm very conscious of establishing a team, and I learned about team building because I've been in education for like 15 years, you know, in various capacities. I've taught second grade, fifth grade. I've been an assistant principal, been a graphic design, digital photography teacher. I've been a dean. I've been I've been just about every person inside the school building, and currently a dean at a school. And I look at the structure of schools and how it doesn't run smoothly unless you have a full-on team. So I take some of those elements from the school settings and bring them into my everyday creativity. So team building is essential, because then I can just focus in and hone in on just building the product. And then when it's done, Ramsha will shoot it. Quaz will get the placement for me. Steve will help get the structure and get the commercial out. You know what I mean? So without a team, you know, you can only go but so far. You know, you look at Jordan. You know what I mean?
Right.
Jordan needed Rodman.
Right.
You know, so.
For me, like I told you guys, I do everything at home by myself. I mean, but as far as like when it comes to like social media, I have people around me that pretty much push that. So, and it really came out of nowhere, because I was never the type of person that really open up and ask people for help, right? Because it's like, once you get so used to doing things on your own, it's like whatever you don't know, you try your best to figure it out. So I have good friends. It's like, yo, look, man, I know I don't design, I don't do any of these things, but when you need something posted or reposted on Instagram, let me be in on that. I'm around a lot of good people, so when I wear your clothes, I can push it like that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, well, let's do that. I don't have a marketing person. Again, those are things that I do on my own. Not saying I'm not looking for one, but right now, it's like, this is what I have.
Right.
I do think teams are very important. I spoke to you guys, and I told you, like when I see people like Diddy and Kanye and these people, it's like, I look at them as B people that need A people around them to get A work. You know what I'm saying? And what I like about them, they don't, just because somebody's working for them, they don't make them seem like the help.
Right,
You understand what I'm saying? It's like y'all on the same, y'all helping me to get to where I need to get. And with that, you're gonna be just about as lit as I am.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you need to know, without you guys, there is no
me.
No me. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do think teams are very important.
So one of my favorite basketball players of all time is Dennis Rodman. And I don't think people realize the capacity of a team player that guy was.
Yeah.
He would have 0 points and 50 rebounds. Now,
Fact.
most people in sports, they be like, but you didn't score.
Right.
The way I look at it is 50 rebounds is a conversion of either 50 points, if it's a field goal, or even more than that if it's a 3-point, or you just stop the other team from scoring.
Yeah.
I absolutely think Dennis Rodman is the greatest team player of all time. I think teamwork is essential to success. And what I love about my team is we. And what I mean by that is anything that anybody on my team is a part of or doing, I'm going to promote it as if it's mine. So you're so you don't even realize I have nothing to do with it. I benefit nothing from it.
Yeah.
And although I hate this term putting people on, I do love putting people in place. I don't want a shout out. I don't need money. I don't need nothing. The way I look at it is like this. And I think that we need to really start to be like realistic with ourselves, and the way that I put people in a position is kind of a selfish reason, but for good reasons. I'm not always gonna be hot. I'm not always gonna be dope. Sure. So the more people I put in a position to win, when I'm not hot or dope no more, maybe they hot or dope. Yep. If any of my companies or anything that I'm doing flops, I can go work for one of my friends, somebody on my team. Now, what's dope about team is every time someone proceeds with their vision, you already got many people already rooting for you. Just because between my team and my crew in Harlem, like, I know I could start anything and I already got a core support group. Yeah. So when you talk about like people just reposting your stuff, that is team. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people even understand the power of that. And you know, we as creatives, you always see an entrepreneur or creative get really frustrated on social media, like share my stuff like you share celebrity stuff. And that's really true, man. Like a lot of people are so quick to share what a celebrity is doing, but their friend is doing something just as dope. Like I started a liquor company, right? And what's crazy is you would get more love for being a brand ambassador of a liquor company than starting a liquor company with some people. Like I don't think people realize how dope that is. Like I have a rum, gin, and a vodka. That is unheard of to have 3 spirits in the same marketplace launched at the same time. And there's a lot of work. Like the black diversity in a lot of these industries that I'm in is non-existent. So I really wish people understood, like when you see an entrepreneur or creative post something, just repost it.
Right.
Like, you don't have to do nothing else.
It takes you nothing.
Right, it don't take
It
you
don't cost
nothing.
you nothing.
I do love when you're on Twitter and you see a creative say, yo, it costs $0 to like put my stuff, you may not like it, but put my stuff in front of the eyes of someone who likes it. And I think that we forget what social media is really for. You got people on social media, don't like, don't comment, don't do nothing. They just on social media like,
Just
it's for
scrolling.
interaction. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody's stuff, share it to somebody else. It's crazy, and the reason why I always tell people to speak your mind and speak what you do. You ever been in a room with somebody saying, hey, I'm a plumber, but I don't think you need a plumber. You're like, I don't need a plumber. But then you go into another room like, damn, I wish I knew a plumber. So this is why I always tell like the young kids that I mentor and I'm around, I'm like, yo, always speak about what you're doing. Always speak about the people that are in your life, because everybody can connect to somebody. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So teamwork is very important, and I'm very appreciative of my team. And just like you said, I'm always willing to expand and grow my team, and I love when new people come aboard. Sometimes people DM me, say, I just want to be around, and I love that. That means we have good energy. My team has good energy. Sure. And a lot of people are always inspired by the way we promote each other, because it's seamless. You don't know whose is what. Like anything like my homegirl Ash is doing, I'm doing. Anything G is doing, I'm doing. Anything that any of my friends are doing, I'm doing. My friend opens a bar, a sneaker store, anything, I'm promoting it. Even if you don't know I'm promoting it, I'm in conversations, yo, go to my man Bar 116, go to my man sneaker store uptown on Amsterdam. Like, this is just who I am, and I really learned that just from being around great people. So I do consider myself a team player, and I really wish that more people understood the importance of being team players, because a lot of people don't.
No, absolutely.
I definitely agree with the team thing. I remember when I was in college, I tried to do a documentary on myself. Like legit.
That's fire.
I'm trying to,
That's fire, yay.
And you couldn't tell me I couldn't do it. I had just learned how to edit, learn how to record. I'm like, I'm setting this camera up on a tripod because I want to get me walking from here to there. I was bugging. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't coming out.
What was the documentary about? Just a day in the life?
Day in the life of ToTo.
Okay.
That was it. I wasn't a person that talk a lot, but everybody fucked with me for some reason. I'm like, I would say something on this shit or do something they want to see that they don't see on the regular day. Never finished it. It's still going, right?
It's still going. I need to
This
see
is
it.
documentary right here. It's still going.
Right.
So now we're doing Creators Club. I have an official team, and no lie, I appreciate these guys so much because they help me on different levels. For me to talk in front of people is way too much for me. It's too much. You know, I'm an introvert. I'd rather not speak. The most you're gonna get from me is a hi. Then now I'm speaking more because of these guys. You get what I'm saying? So they help push me, and they always try to, you know, get it to me like, yo, this is your shit. You have to like, you know what I mean? You gotta own it. And like you were saying, I'm just big on, it's no me without you. You get what I'm saying? So I try to make it feel as homey, as a big team as possible. You get what I'm saying? What's some advice that y'all would give to any upcoming artists or designers?
For me, I say keep a clear mind. Try to be around good people, and protect your space. Set boundaries for yourself. There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And be free. Just do what you want to do. This is again, this is a canvas. The world is a canvas. We wake up every day, we get dressed every day. Sometimes we decide not to, we want to stay in the house. You know what I'm saying? But just do you. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid, man, because out of a lot of things that are big today is because somebody told somebody, all right, well, that's not going to work. And those things work. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, just do you, man.
The greatest advice that I have for someone, and I always got to like be careful about the way I word it. One of my mentors told me is, because I think that we look at other people's success and be like, how could I emulate you? And it just doesn't work like that. So the advice that I have for young creatives or like people that come into the boutique and ask for advice, I'm like, the greatest advice I can give you is to don't take anybody's advice. Because what happens is if you take my advice, I'm only giving you what works for me. Now I could say, yo, nah, that color, those pants is whack, and you go sell 1 million pants and then I look stupid, right? So what I say is, yo, take everybody's advice like with a real grain of salt, because it's great to get advice from people who have succeeded or failed in something that you want to be in, but if you take everything they say, you're gonna fail. I remember when during COVID, everybody was into stocks and everybody was posting the stocks, and I had to stop doing that because what was happening is I kind of figured out what works for me when investing in stocks. So if I post a stock and then you lose $10,000, you're gonna believe like, yo, Kells, you posted it. So I had to stop posting that because I'm not posting my failures. So, you know, it's great to get advice, but do not look at my advice as a science equation because it doesn't work like that. Everything works differently for different people. Just like what you said, someone shot down everything that's dope and big in this world, someone shot it down at one point. James Cameron, it took him 20 years to make Avatar because the technology did not exist, but he was adamant in creating the technology for that to exist. George Lucas created the technology for Star Wars. I don't think people realize that. Like, so, imagine how many people told him no. We hear about it, our favorite artists all the time, like 1 million record labels told me no, and now they're the biggest artists in the world. So yeah, it's great to get advice, but you really gotta follow your own heart because I don't know what passion you got, what's driving your idea, how dope your other ideas is, because when we start anything, it's always whack. Like that's the thing I really want people to understand. Like everything is whack when you first start, and you cringe thinking about your earlier stuff. You're like, what the hell was I doing and talking about? But you got to start somewhere. So if I'm basing you off your whack idea, even though it's your first idea, I don't know what your 20th idea is. So just keep going. Like listen to what I'm saying, but do you? That's the greatest advice I can give somebody.
I think if the pandemic taught us anything is we're all creatives. Like every human on this earth is creative. People were cooking, people were writing books, people were shooting movies, people were just chasing their passions because we actually had time. So my advice is just to take time and just start, you know? I mean, you do what you want to do with the time you have, right? So everybody says, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this. Just do it. Literally just set time out to do it. You know, when, again, like I said, in the pandemic, so many people wrote books and everything was coming out. Because we just had nothing else to do but to create. So find time and just start. It's really just find time and start. It's really just that simple. And then you'll figure everything else out. And then you either figure out it's meant for you or wasn't meant to do it.
Have you guys experienced a dark time in your life where y'all felt like, no, that when that shit happened to me, that's the reason why I am who I am today?
We spoke about this too. It's like I look at dark times very differently from everyone else. I just think that everything in our life is in position to make us see things a different way. So I don't really have like dark times or like my origin story for my superhero story. Like I just don't have that. Like I look at even losses. I look at what did I gain from that. You know, when we talk about dark time, you can talk about the passing of a loved one. But even in that, there's beauty in that. I think what happens, like let's say when a loved one passes, what I try to remember is how beautiful their life was. So if a venture or a brand or something that I'm doing doesn't work, I think about the beauty of that journey. And now you know, oh, I can't go down that road. That road was whack for me. Let's go down this road. So nothing was ever really dark for me. I had some times I'm like, yo, that was some bullshit. Like I lost this, I lost a lot of money. Like you know what I'm saying, this didn't go right in my life. But I think back on it now, like that was a blessing because I know what doesn't work. I know what characteristics of my personality I can't be in that space because it didn't work out for me. It didn't make me feel good. So I wouldn't say it was dark, but everything to me is just a learning experience. And I don't regret anything that has ever happened in my life, anything that I've ever lost, because I look at it as a plus of that feeling. Because you do got to feel a little pain to realize that you're not in pain anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, is one of my favorite characters from The Office, Andy Bernard, like said, I wish we knew about the good old days. So you know you in the good old days, but if you don't know you in the good old days, like you're not gonna ever remember how that felt. So you know, pain and darkness, I think is just a great feeling because when the times are good, you're like, I never want to feel like that again.
Right.
For me, it has nothing to do with like fashion or nothing like that. For me, okay, so I mean, we've all experienced bad relationships, right? So I was in a relationship with someone and just, you know, bad for each other. You know what I'm saying? Good when it starts, but you eventually find out like we just not it for each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We got married, and things started off good and just went bad. But it started really fast, and it just went bad, and I got into a place where I didn't want to be there anymore, and started fighting a lot, arguing, all these other things that I've never been exposed to again. I didn't grow up like that. My mom and my dad, yeah, they split up. I'm saying they split up, but even when they split up and they came together, it was never a thing where I felt it like they're not together, like they're not getting along. You know what I'm saying? So to go through a whole period of, and I'm talking for years, with just back and forth, like, dang, I don't even belong here. Like, what am I doing? And arguing and disrespecting her, she's disrespecting me, and it's happening in front of my kids. That was a lot for me. So what happened was I grew up in church, you know what I'm saying? So in church, everybody knows, like, when you get married, you marry forever. At least that's what they tell you, right? You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I was stuck, and that always stuck with me. I'm like, all right, well, this is just it for me. But it was such a stressful time and such a depressing time for me that I started losing weight. I was doing music at the time. I was an artist at the time, and I was I would go to the studio, and I'll be in the studio, or I would go to the studio to get out the house.
What was your rap name?
Oh Billy.
What?
Yeah, Oh Billy.
Oh, Billy?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh Billy was it was outstanding billion, like outstanding meaning like outstanding, just having an outstanding amount of wealth, wherever that area may be. Right, and billionaire was just standing for success. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I had that, and then I would go to the studio. The music I was making prior to even going to that studio in Queens was very like Mos Def type, Wale type music. And then when I got there, like, nah, yeah, like, you're dope, but you gotta switch it up to this. So we switched it up to that, like, to this whole like really like dark type street music, somebody that I'm just not, right? You know what I'm saying? But you can do it. So it's like you know, when you get into a studio, it's like you could emulate anyone. You know what I'm saying? So I get in the studio, and then I started making music. This is what wasn't of me, but I was also talking about my experiences at home. You know what I'm saying? What I was really going through. You know, I would smoke all day. Like, when I say we high all day, like, I would smoke in the morning. Before I go to work, I get to work. I had coworkers that smoke. We'll smoke outside. I'll smoke on my lunch break. When I get out of work to go home, I'm smoking in my car. And before I go to sleep, I smoke again. Just so I could be high all day, and I don't have to deal with the issues at home. But those issues are still there even when I'm high. So that's a lot I'm going through. So with that being said, I've had 2 suicidal scares. One was on a train. Where I was gonna jump off the tracks. Damn. While the train was coming in, because I just felt like every day I I lost everything. I didn't have a car. I was taking the train to the studio, coming home 3 in the morning, bugging. I'm getting on the A train,
and it was
coming
Queens.
from Queens to come to Brooklyn at 3 o'clock in the morning, on the train, dolly by myself, nothing on me. Somebody said to me one day, I was leaving the studio. He's like, "Yo, you got no gun on you?" I'm like, "Nah, bro." He's like, "Oh, so you just believe in God, huh?" I'm saying, yeah, I actually do. You know what I'm saying? That's just not my life. You understand what I'm saying? So I was standing on the train this one particular incident. I was standing on the train, and I just felt like, yo, my life is not going to change. I have 2 beautiful kids, but this relationship I'm in is not for me. It's not for me. And being that what I was taught when growing up, it's like I'm locked into this. This is all it is for me. So at this point, I'm coming home. I'll never forget it. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was standing on the J train, the J train at Jamaica Junction, at Jamaica Station. I'm sorry, in Queens. It's like the last stop. So I'm standing there, and I'm waiting for the train to come. The train comes, get on the train. Then we get to the junction, Broadway Junction, over here, and I'm waiting for the A. And I'm standing there, and I'm just like, I was so high out of my mind, y'all. I'm being very honest. Like I didn't have a care in the world. Like anybody could have ran up on me, did whatever, and it just would have been that. Because that's how much of I just didn't care. You know what I'm saying? So I'm standing on the platform, I'm like, yo, man, hey, what if you just jump when this train come in, bro? Just jump off of this. No, and this is it for you. And I stood there and I contemplated, and then I see the lights at the tunnel coming. I'm like, so the train is coming. I'm standing here, I'm like, yo. So I think I should just end it, bro. Just jump, because this is not gonna change.
Damn.
You locked in this. And the train came, and I'm standing on the platform, and the train ended up coming to the station. I didn't jump, but the doors opened, I'm standing there, and I walked on the train. When I walked on the train, I said, yo, I gotta get out of this. I don't care, I gotta do something. I have to do something. I started at that time I was doing music, I would write more, I would just express how I was really feeling. Despite of who thought it was wrong or whatever, I would just write about what I was feeling. But I just never stopped. And I'm like, when music cut out, when I started, I was like, I'm gonna do fashion, I just started doing that. I just never turned back. I'm like, I cannot come back to this place. I have 2 beautiful kids at home. And I didn't grow up, I didn't grow up with my father, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I had my parents. You know what I mean? And I don't want my kids to experience or to know what it's like not to have a father due to him ending himself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I gotta get right. And from then, I just never stopped. I kept on writing more, and when that went away, and then the fashion thing started to kick off, the pants, I just kept pushing forward, and started setting boundaries for myself. You know what I'm saying? Setting boundaries, praying more. You know what I'm saying? I started going back to church. You know, when I was going to church when I was younger, it's because my mother told me to go to church. It wasn't a clear understanding.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now that I'm older, and I started to get an understanding of what it was to like have some kind of spiritual relationship. You know what I'm saying? It was good for me, and I just never turned back after that. And before I knew it, it was like, yo, I moved out. I moved to Jersey. I had to sit with myself for a year, and like really put my life together. You know what I'm saying? I look at my kids sometimes today, and I shed a few tears because I'm like, I could have just ended it all. You know what I'm saying? And my kids will never ever feel that. They don't even know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was my dark moment, and like you said, like I never want to experience that. Like I never want to go back to that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what it was for me.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Man. That's beautiful.
Word, definitely, bro.
So I guess, for me, I remember a particular time when my whole life shifted. This was like when I was maybe like 20. So my mom died. I lost my scholarship. I played football at University of Massachusetts. It's just so crazy. Like my son lives parallel lives. He plays football at University of Massachusetts.
Crazy.
So I was on scholarship at University of Massachusetts. Some dumb shit happened. Wound up losing my scholarship. Then I had knee surgery, so I couldn't even transfer because I was going to get picked up to Illinois State. But once they found out I had knee surgery and I couldn't run, it was that dubbed. Then I had a baby. My son was just born in May. This was December, and then my mom died, and then I was about to be homeless. It was tough. Because if you live in New York City Housing Authority, where I grew up, if your name is not on a lease, you don't live there. So my mom never put my name on the lease because everything was cool, whatever. I couldn't even finagle my way around saying that I lived there because I'm not in school. They're like, well, what the fuck you doing? Like, you playing around? I'm like, no, I just got kicked out of school. At the time, the coach didn't like me, so he wasn't trying to help me get my paperwork, so I was just stuck. I had maybe a week before I was gonna be homeless. My son was just born. My mom died. I was limping around, and I told too the story. And when my mom passed, I got a little bit of money, and just being irresponsible, and I always have this sense of I'm gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? I always know I'm gonna make it. I always thought I was gonna play professional football. Like, even when I tried out for the league, NFL, and I got cut, I knew that wasn't the end of my story, So at that time, I was like 20 years, 28, 22, 21, something like that, 20. I just knew I was going to be good. This was like the worst possible situation that happened. Like sometimes when a parent dies, you're all out of whack. When you lose your scholarship, you're all out of whack. When you have major surgery, you're all out of whack. When you be homeless, you're all out of whack. When you have a baby, you're all out of whack. All of these things happened to me at one time. And I was just fucked up. And I knew I was going to be good. So my mom passed, and I'm laughing because I was mad irresponsible because I knew I was good in my heart. So I took the money, went downtown, bought a Coogee sweatsuit, the whole fit, the hat, the sweatshirt, the pants. I can't remember what I had on my feet, but I know it was brand new, and I knew it was A1 butter. Spent all of my money, all of it, because it was, I don't know where I got it from. I don't know, man, Tom, Dick, and Harry, some place where they sold, but I remember spending all that bread and going into the store with the, let me get that, let me get that, let me get that, let me get that. Super irresponsible, and not knowing what was gonna happen, not knowing what the next day was gonna tell, but I knew everything was gonna happen. I knew I had a son, I knew I had to get back to college, knew I had to rehab my knee. I knew I couldn't recover from my mom, and you know, I just didn't know what was next, and I knew I was gonna be homeless. So I bought the suit, went home. I might have even slept in that bitch, because that shit was expensive. So the next day I had to meet with Miss Kitchen. I can say this now because she passed away. Next day I had to meet with Kitchen. So she was the head of the housing authority in my complex. And I walked into Miss Kitchen's office, and Miss Kitchen was like, "Oh man, you look great in that outfit." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, thank you, Miss Kitchen." And then we started talking, and she was like, "You know what, baby, don't worry about it, because you look so nice, I'm gonna take care of you." In my mind, I'm like, "What? What do you mean you gonna take care of me?" She backdated my lease and then put my name on the lease.
Fire.
So I was like, wow. I'm in that shit looking at that Coogee suit like, wow, Coogee, you did this for me? Wow. And then she put me on the lease, and so I wasn't homeless. It was like literally 3 days before I was gonna be homeless. None of my family was around. Everybody was missing, MIA. Oh, we don't got no room, all this other stuff. You're a grown man, get a job, all this other shit. And at that time, I wasn't grown at all. So she put me on the lease, so I had a place to stay. And then from that point on, everything was just like tick, 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 tick. Everything got better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Every single day was better than the next. And maybe for about a week and a half, I want to say 2 weeks, but I really think it was longer. I had that fucking Coogee suit on. I had that shit on so much. The nigga was like, "Yo, that shit is dirty, B. You look stink. Take that off." And I realized, oh shit, let me change the Coogee suit. But it was just knowing, and I think as creatives, we all know that it's gonna get better, and we all know we have the ability to work our way out of it. A lot of times we don't know how it's gonna happen, but we know if I just sit down, if I keep working, that's for everybody in the room who is creative. At some point, even too, what we talk about, like, you know, being our basketball is artistry. We have the conversation, all that stuff about it, but just kind of working your way to a point where you know you're going to be good. You know, that was a really tough time in my life, and I use that as a template for when I'm talking to like my students. My students like, "Yo, Court, my mom died, but I know how you feel. Yo, I'm about to have a baby, I know how you feel. Yo, I'm about to be homeless, I know how you feel."
Right.
You know, I'm about to have, I know how you feel. So I use that as a template to tell them, like, "Yo, I know how you feel because I've been there before. Just keep kind of pushing through." And you know, I pushed through, and I'm here now, and I'm grateful. You know, and when I hear your story of you like wanting to jump, I've been there before. At that time, I was like, "There's nothing else for me to do." Like, you know what I mean? My son was born. Like, if I jump, he ain't gonna really know me. You know what I'm saying? But at that time, I was like, damn, I know there's more. Coogee need to give me a fucking check. I'm like, "Oh, Coogee need to send this to Coogee. Tell Coogee to give me a check." I still got the hat. I don't have the fucking sweatsuit and the sweatshirt disintegrated, but I still got the hat. So I mean, that's life has a way of kind of telling you how to keep going without saying it.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank y'all for taking the time today, for real. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all energy made me feel so good today. This is like, I mean, I did this a few times at this point, right? But like I said, I'm an introvert. I don't really like talking in front of everybody, but y'all really made me feel really, really comfortable. So I appreciate that. You guys are brilliant, and thank you for watching. Next time on Creators Club.